As long as I'm continuing my garage reorganization and clean up this winter, I figured I would get Hannah involved in this process too.
That's me.
That's her. We've been married 20 years, and this is what amounts to couples therapy. Going through your lures and figuring out what they're good for and which ones you need to keep.
And
Footnote,
why?
all of them. So I figured we would go through. She just gets to use what I tie on or what the guide ties on. So I figured I'd let her pick out some lures. And maybe we'd tell some stories, or maybe we'd rediscover a diamond in the rough. So Hannah, what category did you choose to go through today?
Squarebill.
Hannah, why Squarebills?
Well, I like to throw a bait caster. I like to do things fast. Hence, that's how he fishes. And I know that they catch big fish.
That's good. So what's the first Squarebill that you pulled off the rack today?
The Thunder Shad. Because it's never been taken out of the package, so why do we have it? And it's this old, if you can see, it's even changing color. And if it's so good, why is it still in the package?
Well, Thunder Shad was sort of a brief blip on the radar. It was made by a company called the Awesome Bait Company out of Eufaula, Alabama, which of course is famous for being the home of man's lures. And when you think of a Squarebill, what professional anglers do you think of?
I knew it. Takahiro.
Takahiro, who else?
Kevin Van Dam.
That's a good one.
And Kevin Short.
Kevin Short's another really good choice. When I think of Squarebills, the first person I think of, though, is Rick Clunn. Rick Clunn had a long history with them. There was an angler and lure designer named Fred Young from East Tennessee who invented a lure called the Big O, one of the first Squarebills. And they were so valuable, he sold them in little egg cartons. And I think they were $25 or $30 a piece. And Clunn drew him at an invitational years ago, and I think it was at Bugs Island. And he was fishing a Squarebill, and Young told him, you have to fish it faster, faster, faster. And he realized that he generated more bites as he fished it faster and faster. So Clunn later on came out with this Thunder Shad, which was a balsa bait, like many of the originals, which has deflection qualities and buoyancy, comes in this fish-catching color, and this was a Clunn signature lure for a while.
Question.
Okay.
Balsa bait. What does that mean?
Balsa means made out of a wood that's lightweight. It's extremely buoyant, so when you run it into an object and let it go, it'll float back up over that. And it also, because of the square bill, has deflection qualities. So this was Clunn's bait for a while, but he kind of moved on from that. So what's another bait you looked at?
The Lucky Craft RC Crank.
The RC Crank. And can you guess what RC stands for?
Rick Clunn.
Rick Clunn. So Clunn worked with Lucky Craft and his sponsor, Bass Pro Shops, to come out with a lure. And actually, this color, I figure you picked it because you like this color.
I like that color.
That's called
orange.
That's called Bull Brim. And if you remember the 2011 Classic in New Orleans, you might not remember it because you were out collecting beads.
Sorry.
But Van Dam won it on a Squarebill, a Strike King Squarebill. But Derek Remitz, who was one of the up-and-coming anglers at the time, had won his first Elite Series tournament. I remember looking at the deck of his boat, and he was throwing an RC in this Bull Brim color, so it led me to go out and buy one. Yes, I have one not in the package, in the boat. Okay, what's the next lure you picked, Hannah?
Not exactly my colors, but it's cute. And so, of course, if it's cute, got to use it.
And it's small.
And it's small, and it's from Ima.
Ima. And Ima stands for Imagine. They're a Japanese company that, through our friend Matt Pano of Optimum Baits, made a big impression in the U.S. market with their pro staffers. And one of those pro staffers was Bill Lowen. And what do you think of when you think of Bill Lowen?
He likes to fish shallow.
Right.
Out of the way places.
Where's he from?
And he's from, sorry Gretchen, Ohio.
Ohio, and particularly the Ohio River where the fishing is really tough. So he built this bait. It's a little smaller, as you can see, than some of the other lures.
More compact like me.
More compact, and also it doesn't dive quite as deep. So if you get way in the back of a creek, and maybe there's some silt on the bottom, it doesn't go quite as deep.
Oh, that
so
makes
it's made for pressured situations where you're fishing a little bit shallower. Do you have a fourth choice?
Ooh. I like this guy.
That's old school lures, and that has a Bill Lowen connection too.
But he's cute too. Look at his eyes. And if it's cute, he's probably going to catch fish.
So this is made by Old School Baits, which is another name for PH Custom Lures. And Bill Lowen's best friend is a guy named Phil Hunt. You remember we became friends with Phil through Bill. And he made a lot of balsa crankbaits like the Ohio, Indiana style for really tough fishing. So he came out with the PH Custom Lures, which cost about $20 a piece. And then he also came out with these old school baits. And old school baits, I think, are about $11 or $12 a piece. They may not be quite as fancy or quite as finished as the PH Custom Lures, but you get that same balsa action in a less expensive package. So if you're throwing them into gnarly places, like where would you throw a square bill? Like along rocks or maybe into a big laydown? You might lose some.
Yeah.
Might lose some. So this is a great option. That chartreuse and black, standard color in everything from the Bagleys to the Lucky Craft to the Thundershed. So you picked some pretty cool square bills to start. I'm pretty
impressed. Good stories. It amazes me how much you do actually know and why we have all this stuff behind us.
That's why we have it all.
Now remember, the secret to a good marriage is sharing your tackle.
It's cheaper than divorce.